Welcome, it's Jeremy Allen Gould. I'm coming to you today to confirm between God and of man that in fact, the rumors that you have all heard are true. I started this podcast because I freaking love music. I was privileged enough to book amazing artists and bands in the past, and I was lucky enough to stay in touch with many of them to this day. This is a place to hear their stories. Thank you so much for riding along on this journey, and I hope you enjoy what you hear. With that said, the rumors are definitely true.
Thank you for tuning in to this latest episode of the Rumors Are True podcast. My name is Jeremy. Today I welcome my dear friend, Ryan Luther from Furnace Fest. Ryan's an amazing person, awesome friend, been so kind and gracious to me over the years. So I was really excited to have him come on and talk about his involvement with Furnace Fest and what he's got going on in his life lately. So I hope you guys enjoy this latest episode with my friend, Ryan Luther. Ryan Luther, thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure to be here.
Bro, what's up? What is new in your life?
Man, not a ton new. Just kind of enjoying Nashville life. I've been up here for a while now, and tons of stuff going on all the time. Just fun events and cool shows, and going hiking with my dogs, and bonfires and
going out of town a lot. It looks like.
I'm out of town a good bit. I try to take a couple scuba diving trips every year, as much as I can afford. And so this year I've been able to do a couple pretty crazy trips. One was in the Caribbean, one was in the South Pacific. So those are both awesome. Diving with sharks and manta rays and any other cool creature I can see down there.
What are you doing work-wise? I know you've kind of told me in the past, but what do you got going on work-wise?
I've been for a long time. I've been part-time sales with a company called Mod Trust. It's a big modular erector set sort of product. I met them a long time ago when I used to work in the TV industry. They would build big stages for the Super Bowl and like the halftime shows and the pregame shows and UFC fights and Kentucky Derby and just any big sporting event where there was some sort of pregame stage. They were building it. And I got to know them because I used to work on a lot of TV crews back in the day. And I found a little niche in the aerospace world when they're actually mechanics are working on big jumbo jets for Delta and American Airlines or Boeing, Lockheed Martin, all these companies that build jets. These mechanics got to get 20, 30, sometimes 40 feet up in the air working on the top of these wings, these tails, these planes, and they have to do it safely, obviously, but then also not scratching the airplane. And traditionally through the years, they'd always use a bunch of scaffolding, and our company was able to come in and introduce our product as a more superior product to scaffolding. So I've actually spent quite a few years now selling the aerospace world platforms.
That's awesome.
And as I'm able to work from home, I travel around to a couple events a year to make clients. And then on top of that, though, I also do all the booking, and I'm one of the 4 owners for Furnace Fest.
Yes. So, we'll definitely get into that.
That's another big chunk of my day.
Dude, so I want to talk about when you and I first met. I met you through Jonathan Berlin and Jared Bowser, and I don't know if you remember this, but so basically what it is, I'm surfing Instagram or whatever, and I see a picture of you on the sidelines of a Florida State game, and I messaged you and I said, Ryan, what the hell are you doing? Tell me what you're living my dream. And so I reach out to you and you're like, oh yeah, I do this and that. And then I'm like, I'm thinking I might be moving back to Florida soon. And you're like, I'll hook it up. And I was thinking, no way. And 6 months later, I'm on the Saturday Night Football, Oklahoma versus Florida State on the sidelines. And I've told you thank you in the past, but thank you so much for all you've done for me. You're such an awesome guy and a good friend. So yeah, man, I'll never forget that. You changed the trajectory of my life in a weird way. Yeah. So, yeah.
The same thing happened to me to get down there, too.
So cool.
There was a friend of a friend I used to work at a youth camp with, and my buddy Paul was like, hey, this guy that's friends of our friend is in town as a camera guy for ESPN, and he needs some help pulling his cable for the game. Like, and I was like, he's like, do you want to come down and help us out? And I was like, we'll be on the field. He's like, yeah, we'll be on. I was like, with ESPN? I was like, Bobby Bowden's right there. He's like, yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. Because I grew up in Tallahassee, and like the only thing Tallahassee has is like Florida State football.
Yep.
And that was the first football game my dad took me to when I was a little boy. Deion Sanders was on the field playing.
Man, I'm so jealous.
And then I started, going to the games religiously. We had family friends playing for the team. Casey Weldon was a star quarterback in the early 90s, and they'd take us to all the games. So I grew up obsessed with Florida State football. But then the chance to go down there on the field and work was phenomenal.
Yep.
And camera guys had these cable pullers behind them to get their camera from one end zone to the other without, weaving it out of the players and the benches and the photographers and the cheerleaders. And so that's what I started doing. And then I became kind of the go-to guy in Tallahassee. Like, I moved away for a little bit, but I did a few gigs in other states. And then I moved back to Tallahassee. The woman that crewed for ABC didn't know a lot of people in Tallahassee. So she'd call me up, and I'd call like 12 of my friends to come out and be like the game crew. And that's kind of how it started for me. And like some of these bigger ones, like Saturday Night Football, ESPN or ABC, they'd hire up to 25 different workers. So they'd have 4 handheld cameras, 4 different people running the grab microphones, and then those carts driving up and down all have 3 people pulling cables. So I kind of fell into that. So I was able to get a lot of friends actually out there on the sidelines, and it was kind of a big fun, like, hangout every Saturday.
Absolutely. It was so cool. And it's funny because I remember vividly, obviously working a lot of these games. And, one game I'd be working with Mark Solomon, and then another I'd be working with Eric Collins, and another I'd be working with Dan Cole. And, like, it's just mind-blowing to me. And, it was awesome to be able to get to know those guys and have fun and watch football.
Yeah, a lot of the scene people that I knew, I'd bring them out there, like the guys you mentioned. Some of the Evergreen Terrace guys, like Jason and
that's
Josh.
Right, Josh. Yeah, Josh worked with me.
Josh and his brother, from Casey Jones, they'd come over to Tallahassee and we do games, and we'd go down to Orlando and do gigs together as well. And then now Mark Solomon's full time into the TV industry.
I know, I saw that. He
kept going,
dude. He's crushing it. That's sick. Yeah, I did that. I don't know, 5 or 6 years, and the body ain't what it was. So I do enjoy drinking the beer on my couch and watching it. But that was awesome. And again, I appreciate it. You're so awesome to have hooked me up in that realm, and I really am grateful for it. So okay, let's talk about growing up for you, Ryan. Maybe kind of how you got into music in general, maybe some records, some bands, some influences that kind of shaped who you are.
Sure. Grew up in Tallahassee, Florida. I was in a pretty conservative Christian house that, like, my parents didn't really let me listen to, like, rock and roll stuff much as a kid. But by the time I was in, like, middle school and high school, I was listening to it quite a bit, just without them knowing, I guess. And our local radio station was kind of what I listened to. It was 101.5. And in the early 90s, they were just playing Pearl Jam and Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana, like, all the time, just that whole 90s alternative scene. And I got sucked in pretty hard. And that was just my favorite stuff. 94, 95, Weezer came out and Green Day came out. And I was loving all those bands. And I was loving, Beck and Beastie Boys. And just that was probably my first taste into, like, the aggressive style music. But then a little bit later in high school, I was getting a little more into Deftones and Rage Against the Machine type stuff. And then I moved to college, and I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I'm in a Christian college, and I'm in the dorms, and I was hanging out with my buddy Justin, and he turned on some stuff that was, like, just really, like, just jarring, like, heavier than I'd ever heard before. I'm like, dude, what is this? He's like, this is Zayo, man. You got to listen to Zayo. And so I was like, oh, this is crazy. And he started playing me Living Sacrifice and all of these Solid State Records bands, Train for Utopia, and just, all these, Embodiment, everything that was, like, late 90s Solid State Records I got super into. And from there, I started going to all the shows in the area. Chattanooga had a medium amount of shows, but we were an hour and a half from Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I'd go down to Atlanta all the time to see these bands. But I started seeing Stretch Armstrong and Shai Hulud and Poison the Well and Converge and American Nightmare. All these bands were coming through, like, every month, it seemed like. So we went to Atlanta, like, once a month to see shows. And I got sucked into the world, I was addicted.
That's sick.
Yeah.
When did it start to pop in your mind, maybe to start putting on your own shows? I know you and I have that connection in terms of promoting and stuff. Like, what kind of popped in your mind to do that, and what were some of your first shows?
I think because I was in Chattanooga, and it's 2 hours from Nashville, an hour and a half from Atlanta. We would drive to both cities, to see bands play. And I'm talking to these bands, and I'm like, you guys are driving right through Chattanooga, so why don't you just stop here? I started getting to know the bands because it was a smaller scene back then. Everybody was hanging out with everybody, and we'd all go to Denny's or Waffle House or something afterwards. And you kind of got to be friends with the bands you were listening to, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so we started having occasional shows. There was this little cafe place just south of Chattanooga that like bands would play at, and Ludacris would play there kind of regularly. And that's before they were called Norma Jean. And Beloved played there, and some other bands like that back in the day. And so fast forward to Furnace Fest 2000, the very first Furnace Fest. I'm there as a fan, and a bunch of us were all hanging out. And some of the guys from Embodiment were in like this little group that we were all chatting. And they're like, well, we got a show in Knoxville, Tennessee. Then we have a day off. Then we have a show in Nashville. And I was like, well, we're in Chattanooga. We're right. Like, it's just like this. You're swinging right through there almost. They're all 2 hours apart. And they're like, oh, we love a show in there. And this was just, keep in mind, this is 2 days later. We're talking on a Sunday.
Wow.
Tuesday's their night off. And so, they're like, let's play a show. And in our little talking group were the guys in the band Ludacris. And I was like, do you guys want to play too? And they're like, Solid Rock Cafe? I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah, we love the pizza there. Let's do it. And so literally they said yes in like 5 minutes. So we had Embodiment, or not Embodiment, Society's Finest. I was talking about Embodiment earlier. Society's Finest was the band. And Ludacris. It was all lined up. And so I called the Solid Rock Cafe. My buddy was there. I'm actually Jason Fields. You know Jason.
Yeah.
From across from April's. And I was like, Jason, we got these bands coming through. Make sure we have the space and it's all cleared out. And so we started telling everybody we could, come to the cafe on Tuesday night. And Society's Finest band like broke down on the way there.
Oh, God.
They couldn't make it. But then it ended up being Ludacris just played by themselves. There were probably 50 people there, which is good for that era. It was fun. And then after that, like I got to know Cool Hand Luke, and I did some shows with them at these little coffee houses. And then Dennis and Mars rolled through town, and I did shows with them. And then Every and Terrace and 1/5, all these Florida bands were coming back through, and just started kind of making it a regular thing where we'd rent any little space we could, clear out the tables, and bring in a little miniature PA. And then when I was graduating and leaving, this was May of 2002, I had Under Oath and Beloved. This is back when they were still small. And Under Oath's kind of on the verge of getting big right then. But I had both of them play kind of my last, I'm leaving, peace out show. And then from there, just kept going. When I moved back to Florida, there was the venue, the Beta Bar.
Yes.
And it used to be the Cow House back in the day, turned to the Beta Bar. Later, it turned to the Engine Room. Now it's just like a club, I think, but not like a venue. But I started doing shows there with the same bands, and kind of I was working there. Like when I wasn't doing shows, I do security part-time, and I do all their promotion around town, putting up posters and flyers.
Was there anyone else doing shows there at that time in that genre at all, or were you just kind of the go-to?
There was quite a few. Actually, there's a little bar called Big Daddy's that did some stuff. Actually, I did a few shows there. The one and only Starflyer 59 show that I booked.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll never forget the date because it was leap year day. So it was February 29th.
Wow.
And had Starflyer play there. And then also cool. Florida State had a venue on campus called Club Down Under. They did a lot more of the indie rock type shows, not as much of the heavier punk rock stuff, but a lot of the college rock and indie rock bands would play at Club Down Under. So there was a few different venues doing that stuff. And the Beta Bar had an in-house guy that was booking a lot of events as well.
Were you doing that full-time? Was that just your job, basically, or did it turn into that?
No, it was always part-time just because Tallahassee never got great shows. So I would do, a couple a month and just make a couple $100 here and there. It was never huge money. So at the time, I was just doing that and delivering food for an Italian restaurant. So this is the early 2000s. I was working in a restaurant and working part-time at this music venue down the road.
What are some of the best shows that you booked in? I know you mentioned a couple of them, but like in Tallahassee and Chattanooga, what are some of the memorable ones that you can remember that you haven't mentioned?
One that I did kind of mention, I remember it was Every and Terrace in a basement, and Black Paper Diary played, Embrace from Panama City played, 1/5 played, but our local band called Rifles at Recess, it was their first show, and I just remember that whole night just being amazing. I remember we did a lot of shows that our local band Forever Changed.
Oh yeah.
Had them plus Dennis and Mars and Cool Hand Luke always together a lot of times. It was always fun. And I was able to do a M83 show right when they were about to explode.
I remember that.
I can remember the date because it was November 1st, 2011. So the date was just 11111. 5 ones across the.
That's sick.
And that was the first that, and on Thanksgiving week, 3 weeks later, they played Jimmy Fallon. So
that's nice.
I was able to get them right before they exploded.
Yeah.
And, so that was kind of cool. And they packed the place out. It wasn't sold out, but it was a pretty full club. And the people were going crazy. It's 400 people, not that many, but 400 people going crazy. And the next night, I went down to watch them play.
I went with you. Yeah, I went with you.
We went to Beacham, hung out, and it was 1,500 people. And I'm talking to the band. They were like, man, the crowd in Tallahassee was so much better than this 1,500 person crowd. So I loved hearing that. That was good.
That's sick, dude. That's awesome. Yeah. What's the biggest show you ever did?
That might have been, there's just stuff like that. There was never big shows. I was never outside of that club. That was a 500 cap club. So that might have been about the biggest one. I did a lot. The shows there were 100 to 150 people. Even with touring bands. So there was a lot of bands that dislike coming because they could get 500 people a night everywhere. And they come to Tallahassee and they're hopefully to get 130. So.
That's dope.
That was kind of the nature of that city at the time. So it got skipped over a lot. Bands would just drive right past us and go down to Orlando and Tampa and then leave Florida.
Yeah, so you and I have like I said, the connection, and it's cool because you have gotten to know a lot of these bands over the years, like I have, and it's just kind of etched in who we are, which is cool. And what did that open up other doors for you after that? Obviously, obviously you're starting to manage bands, or not starting, but managing bands. So kind of how did that kind of all come together?
I'd say the biggest door that it opened up would be Furnace Fest. Chad was talking to me several years back, it was 2018, about how Johnny Grimes had asked him to do a 20th anniversary of Furnace Fest. And he thought it was kind of weird, didn't think anybody'd care. And I was like, dude, everybody would care. Yeah. Everybody would love to be a part of that. I was like, I'll prove it to you. I was like, if you make it happen, I was like, I'll jump in, I'll work for free, I'll do whatever it takes to help you make this happen. I just kind of threw myself out there. I was like, you got to make this, a reality. Yeah. And so I emailed 7 or 8 bands, because he wasn't sure if people would be into it. So I emailed Every and Terrace, Zayo, Further Seems Forever, Hopes Fall, Norma G. I emailed just a bunch of bands that I had relationships through the years that also played Furnace Fest, and Living Sacrifice, I think, was one of them. And I was just like, hey, if there's a new Furnace Fest coming out, would you guys be interested in playing? And every band was just sign us up. We want to be there. It was just they didn't even hesitate. They're like, that'd be the coolest thing ever if we got to relive Furnace Fest. So that kind of pushed me in, and then me and Chad and Johnny started meeting, and that's how Furnace Fest came back around. We decided to go through with it, and we're going to make this happen. And we're talking to Beloved and Under Oath, and just Every Time I Die, Thursday. We just started talking to every band about coming back, and Terror was on board, and 18 Visions was on board, and so that kind of opened up the door for me to be a full-time booking person for Furnace Fest. And then once Furnace Fest got going, there's a couple bands I'd been friends with a little bit that I was just chatting with them. Hey, I just talked to agents all day. When I did that, I kind of left the TV industry. I was a camera guy in the TV industry for the last 10 years. And I was like, hey, I'm just talking to bands all day and band agents and managers and stuff. So if I can ever do anything to help you connect with other bands or help your career out, let me know. And so Appleseed Cast and I started kind of working together part-time. And over this past year, I've been trying to work a little bit with Unwed Sailor. And I'm not a full-blown, main manager, but I'm kind of just trying to be a networking guy, getting them connected with people they might not know, try to get them on tours. That's great. And I was lucky enough to be able to get the Appleseed Cast on all of the Sunny Real Estate reunion shows last year.
Man, that's bonkers. I
don't know how I did that. It was kind of my first act as a manager. And somehow they got
a good one.
Their dream tour. And,
that's so sick.
It was phenomenal. The shows were awesome. Sick. I went to probably 7 or 8 of the shows.
Yeah, I remember you saying you're flying out. That's sick, dude. That's so cool. Well, listen, let's talk about the last couple of Furnace Fests and the future one that's coming up, obviously. Let's talk about 2021. I know you talked about how, it was a dream and things started to go into motion. And looking back on it, it's been 2 years. Kind of maybe take me through the whole, how things were. You don't have to go super deep, but just how things were, and looking back on how you feel about it. That was because it definitely was a cathartic. I didn't get to be there that year, but I could see it. It was palpable. It was cool, and I just want to know your thoughts on it.
So the conversation started in the summer of 2018, and the idea was a 20th reunion for the first Furnace Fest, which the first Furnace Fest was in 2000. So it was going to be Furnace Fest 2020. And we just started talking to bands, just kind of feeling things out, and through like that fall. And then 2019, we really started like diving full speed in there and like lining up bands, and they all seemed on board. We started talking to Sloss Furnace. Can we hold this event there again? Because that's why it's called Furnace Fest. Is
sure. At
the Sloss Furnace, an old steel factory. They used to manufacture furnaces. But so we started talking to everybody and kind of getting it lined up, and then it was growing and growing, and some of the people that we were connected to were like, you guys have all had kind of music industry experience or experience in business there in Birmingham, but have any of you like run a festival like lately? Like Chad hadn't done it since the early 2000s. I'd only booked shows. I'd never run a festival. Johnny was a business guy, but he'd never run a music festival. So like you need someone with like more festival experience. So we brought a guy named Mike Zemer who runs festivals out in Texas. He's got So What Music Festival, and he books full time. So then the four of us were like the team that were putting it all together, and then we got ready. We're just preparing. We announced Beloved. Everybody got excited. Tickets started selling really, really well. And then COVID hits. So, like, COVID hits, and we're like, oh, great. So we can't have an event this fall. So everybody was canceling everything. So we had to postpone until the next year, like everybody else did. And we had to postpone it twice, originally. We postponed until the spring of 2021. But originally, the spring wasn't really looking clear enough to do big events.
Sure.
Everybody's worried about a super spreader event. So we pushed it back just to the regular dates in September. But during that time, we were able to see how big the excitement was and how many people wanted to play, and like huge bands were contacting us about playing. And so we switched from the two stages at about a 3,500 person capacity to adding a big main stage out in the parking lot, and it went up to a 10,000 person capacity. And so we, after, when COVID, midway through COVID, we kind of re-announced the new lineup, the revamped lineup, and it was a bigger stage, a bigger event, with 3 stages now. Sure. And the tickets just went crazy. And
sick.
We were shocked. And even one of the days, we were able to hit 10,000 people the Saturday, the Taking Back Sunday headlined.
That's
and the other 2 days were like 9,800 people. So it was really close.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was roughly 10,000 people a day. And back in the day when Chad used to do it, it was a 2,000 person event.
Yeah.
So to put it in perspective, it got that big. People were so excited to be able to come back, see all their favorite bands again.
Yeah.
Plus, everybody had been sitting out for a year and a half, not going to concerts.
They were primed and ready. Absolutely.
All of a sudden, 90 bands that you love in one place, and a chance to see all your friends again. And people came from all over. We had all 50 countries represented, or states represented, and we sold tickets to about 25 different countries.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's sick. How was it? Obviously, that made you feel good. Obviously, you guys are stoked and pumped. What was it like? Kind of just being in the coach's office, or whatever you want to say. Like what were you guys all feeling?
It was lots of different feelings. Like I guess I didn't even realize how big it was. Like so, I got there for the first setup day, or I got there maybe the night before the setup day, and then I go out there to the field. And there were about 4 semi trucks pulled up, and I was just like, "What?" I'm used to doing club shows and stuff,
Sure.
So seeing that many semi trucks pulled up, and there was a whole 15 people putting up the main stage. There was a dozen people putting up the VIP tent. There were like dozens and dozens of workers everywhere, and I'm like, "Crap! Like this is huge." Like I just it wasn't like all 3 stages are getting built by huge teams. We're getting shipments of tables, and catering companies are coming in, and I guess like that one just kind of caught me off guard, just how big it was on the setup day. I was like, man, this is like a huge, ordeal. It's not just a little punk rock show. And then probably fast forward to the event day, there was a lot of last minute fixes and
sure.
We were trying to get ready to open the gates and everything. And we opened the gates, and I was doing a bunch of stuff. And I wasn't even looking at what time it was. That whole morning was just a blur to me the first day. And then all of a sudden I'm walking, and there was bands playing and a bunch of kids, crowd surfing and stuff. I was like, oh, it's already started. It was I wasn't even thinking about, the first band's about to go out. I wasn't even, I was doing stuff up until,
I'm sure
the second or third band. And it was even, I was running down to like get some last minute guest list changes. And I hear this familiar noise. I'm like, wait, oh, that's Unwed Sailor. It was just, I love Unwed Sailor, they're my buddies, but it was just, and that was just overwhelming. Like seeing how many people strolled in, because the line was all the way down the street, like around the block for like half a mile. It was crazy. So you have 10,000 people trying to get in at once.
That's got to be gratifying for sure.
It was gratifying. So a lot of busyness during that weekend, and didn't get to enjoy as many sets as I would have liked. But at the end of it, we just sat back and we're just happy to accomplish that.
Absolutely. Was there any? I know that it seems like it ran fairly smoothly. Was there any stress or anything that was frustrating, or situations that you just had to kind of on the fly just be like, oh, well, we got to make it work?
There was a couple little hiccups, but nothing major. Like that first day, it was like the gates were opening, and there was like, oh, we did put some bike racks around the soundboard over at the pond stage.
Sure.
So we need to just do that. And then also the fencing from the pond stage to keep people from just going backstage wasn't there. So we had to real quick get one of our staff guys had some stuff in the back of his truck and put up one of those orange mesh construction netting fence. So there's a lot of little things like that, and maybe it's a couple hours before we have all these pallets of water for the bands. We have the coolers and stuff, and I think we were just so who's actually going to be filling up the water coolers? I'm like, oh. And we have everything ready. We just didn't realize every 2 hours who's going to go put another 12-pack of water in there and empty out the ice, And so just a couple of things like that. So it wasn't, honestly, for as big as that event, to only have a few little minor things like that.
Sure.
Again, it's kind of impressive. And then we got through the whole weekend and had one stupid incident about 2 hours before the thing was over. The singer of Knocked Loose ran a stage dove, which these people happened, but the security company was doing good, but an extra Birmingham cop was on duty, and he went down into the in between the stage and the barricade where he shouldn't have been. No one told him to go there. He was just kind of being his own, just thought he was supposed to go down there, and he wasn't. So the singer stage dives, and he's just kind of there as a security guard, and then he sees the person coming off the crowd, trying to get back on stage, and he assumed it was just a fan. So he yanks him and pulls him down. And then the singer, Brian, tries to get back up there again, and he yanks him, pulls him down, and starts to push him out like he was a fan, get out of here, dude. And it was just a chaotic moment. The band's manager jumped in. I had to jump down there. It turned into a big kind of just scuffle. Some of the other security guards knew what was going on. They were trying to pull him off of the singer. So this all happens in the middle of Knocked Loose's set. And we're an hour and a half from finishing.
Oh my God!
This has to happen after 3 days.
That's hysterical. Looking back on it, man, that was such a special time and year. What are your thoughts on looking back on it, and how do you view it now?
It was a special weekend. I got to see dozens and dozens of friends that I probably would not have seen ever again in life.
Yeah.
We all went to shows together 15, 20 years ago, and we were all tight back then. And then since then, everybody's moved on, and everybody's in different states, and most people have kids and are married, or they're stuck in their careers. No one's, we're not going to shows together in Atlanta anymore like we did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So being able to do this, I was able to connect with, several dozen, if not 100 different people, probably 100 different people, or more, that I would never have seen again. And that was really cool. So many people came up to myself or Chad or Mike or Johnny just crying, thanking us.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Numerous people. I'm talking 3 people a day would come up to me just kind of crying, you don't know how much this means to me.
That's so cool.
I got to see everybody. I was depressed during COVID. This is the best weekend of my life. I get to get out here and do everything that I see all the bands I love. And that was kind of cool. It was very, it was emotional seeing these people that were that excited, that they were brought to tears over how great Furnace Fest was.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, you should be proud. It was, I didn't get to go, but it just looked unbelievable. Yeah. And I know you were hitting me up to go. It was just one of those things I couldn't go, but I'm so stoked for you guys. It's so cool that, not only brought something nostalgic back and something that, and put a different spin on it, and it's bigger than it's ever been. But, man, what an awesome way to have connected with people. And like you said, these people, it's kind of was their lifeblood for a while, and it's cool that you got to be a part of that. That's got to be amazing feeling.
Yeah, it was just definitely a privilege to be a part of that.
That's sick. So Furnace Fest ends. Do you day after? Do you start working on Furnace Fest 2022?
We were already working on it a month before that, actually.
So let's talk about it.
We hadn't even announced that there was going to be, because at the time we thought it was going to be a one-time reunion. It was billed as that, like just this one time we're getting back together to relive this, thing. And during that whole year, so many people were talking to us like, you need to keep this as a regular thing. Like, we need this in the South. This would be cool. We need to keep this going. So by summertime, I think all four of us were like, if this works out, we'll keep this going. This needs to be, it would be a great thing to have.
Yeah.
And so we kind of already decided mid to late summer that we were going to keep going. And a month before the event even took place, before anybody in the world knew that it was going to be happening, we pretty much had Sunny Day Real Estate and Mastodon already kind of confirmed as our headliners.
That's nuts.
And
That's
we'd
so
already
nuts.
been talking to them. So it was 13 months before the event. We had already started lining up headliners. So,
did you book Sunny Day essentially then? Was that your job with this?
Yeah, I do.
So
yeah.
What were their thoughts? Had they heard of it? What were they like? What's this all about?
Well, no, Jeremy was playing.
Oh, that's right. He played. That's right.
Yeah, Jeremy got to play the first year, and then he backed out after we'd had him booked. And then I think he was nervous about COVID earlier on.
Sure.
And then got close to the event, realized that events were happening again. People were going to concerts or starting to trickle out that summer. And so he's like, he hit us up and he's like, is there any way I can get back on the festival? And it's like, well, you're Jeremy Enick,
Yes, you may.
So we love Jeremy Enick, and I'm a diehard Sunny Day fan. So Jeremy got back on the festival. He came a day early, and he's hanging out with the Unwed Sailor guys, and so he was there just hanging out as a fan and as a buddy watching. So he already
kind of knew what was going on. Yeah.
But it was but his agents had been talking to me like, hey, if you are interested, next year Sunny Day Real Estate is probably going to do a reunion tour. So I was like, yeah, that's a no-brainer right there.
Absolutely.
So we all voted for them pretty easy. And so it wasn't that hard to get them on. And what stinks, though, is I was talking to them about it starting in August, and we weren't allowed to announce them until the following April after Riot Fest had announced their lineup, because Riot Fest was paying them a much bigger number, and part of their contract was they get to announce them first.
Sure.
So I had to go with the knowledge for about 8 months that Sunny Day Real Estate was back together without telling any of my friends.
That's got to be the hardest thing in the world.
I had a buddy here in town, kind of went on a little rant one night about, there's no reason those guys shouldn't be playing. They're young guys.
Yeah.
People want to see them. They'd make money. And I'm just sitting there going, if only you knew what I know.
I know I was hitting you up because I heard chirpings, and I know you would tell me, but I was ecstatic when you guys got them. That's insane. Well, let's talk about kind of the process for that festival. How did that go? Obviously, it was a little bit different than 2021, and kind of maybe your thoughts on that as well, and maybe some hiccups and some frustrations or stress in that world.
It was one of the nicer things. We kind of already had an idea of how we want everything to go because we'd just done it, but we're still new at it, and there's still a lot of things that we still every year need to grow from and learn from. But so we already had a general idea of how everything was going to look. We had already relationships with the fencing companies and the production, just different things that we needed to make everything work. So that helped. But so I started booking in August, and right after we were done, it was funny because I got home, the festival was over late Sunday night. Monday morning, we're kind of there, just packing up a lot of stuff, a lot of tear down to do. And by the time I got home, I drove back to Nashville that afternoon. My inbox probably had 4 or 5 emails from booking agents saying, hey, here's the 7 bands we want you to consider for next year. And I'm like, I haven't even gone to bed. I'm just like, I just need to sleep for 2 days. And I was like, I'm not even trying to think about it. So pretty quick after that, once we got Sunny Day and Mastodon locked in, and Thrice shortly after, we started booking pretty fast.
Yeah.
So I had a couple weeks off, and then went right into it, and we were booking bands pretty hard. And after everybody saw what a success it was, all the bands wanted to play.
Sure.
So we were getting hit up just relentlessly. My inbox was flooded.
That's nuts.
And bigger bands than we even had, we were asking to play. And so yeah, the challenge was to make it as cool or maybe slightly better than the year before, which is pretty hard to do. But we were able to get a pretty good diverse, we were able to get Blindside to come back from Sweden. Took us about 2 years, but we finally got Elliot to say yes. And so putting them on a day with Sunny Day Real Estate was such a cool,
Oh, totally.
having them on the same stage. Two of my favorite bands from that genre. Pedro the Lion, took a while, but I convinced him to do the 20th anniversary of Control album.
Yep.
But then, it was a similar process to the year before, because I think the bands that didn't get invited were all eager to be there.
Totally.
And some of them were like, oh, we were bummed we didn't get asked last year, so we're happy to get asked this year,
That's great, man.
It's all their friends' bands getting picked up, and they didn't get picked up. There's only so many slots you can fill.
What's some memories from 2022 that you remember that maybe you? Was there any particular performances or anything that you really got to enjoy? I know you're busy running around, but any thoughts or memories from that time that you're looking back on it?
I feel like I was a little more busy this past year than I even was 2021. There was 99 bands this past year, and all 99 had my phone number for the stuff they needed.
That's
and some of them were very needy, and so I was just getting lit up. And we had a crew of people that were responsible that I would delegate stuff to.
Sure.
But it still came to me first to be like, okay, this band needs another case of water. This band needs more ice. This band needs to get their bus driver driven to the hotel. Just nonstop stuff coming to me, and they're always hitting me up. Where do we go to get paid, or where's our merch table at, and just stuff like that. But So past that, though, I was able to see most of Elliot's set. I was able to see probably 3 or 4 songs for In Flames. I love In Flames.
Great band.
One of my favorite bands for heavy metal. Saw a couple Spirit Box songs. Would have liked to see more of them. I didn't really get to see Cursive. I like Cursive a lot, but didn't get to see them much. I didn't see any of Blindside. So I don't have a ton of band memories, honestly, because I was
I'm sure.
Year before I did. The year before, I Stretch Armstrong was my highlight.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was the highlights from that?
Stretch Armstrong was the highlight for the first year. They were the most wanted band. Everybody wanted them to be there, and they showed up and delivered, and the place went crazy. Seeing Staves Acre again, I'd seen them a lot back in the day, but they've been a good 15 years, so I'd seen them last. Seen Luxury for the first time.
Man, so
they hadn't played a show in over 20 years. Or about 18 years, I guess it was. It was really early 2000s. The last time they played.
Yeah, Chris came on and was talking about how he was talking to you about playing, and he was so grateful that you guys reached out, and that was amazing. It's amazing.
Seeing them, Zayo had an amazing set that year. They played second to last right before Converge on the Shed stage.
Jeez.
And the place was just packed out, and the energy level was great.
That's sick, dude.
Yeah.
That's sick. I know you. So look, in comparison of the 2 years, 2022, was it number wise? How was it comparable? Was it something that you guys were bummed on? Was it something you were stoked on?
Ticket wise, we were down a good bit. We were a little bit bummed. We didn't have near the crowd we did the year before. A lot of festivals were down last year. The economy kind of hit a lot of people hard. And just the bills were tight for everybody. Inflation went up, and a lot of times the first thing that has to go is like the fun stuff. When you're because we obviously market towards a lot of the older people and that liked it. And so when you got 3 kids at home and a mortgage and all that, so it's tougher to spend hundreds of dollars on concert tickets and plane tickets and hotel. When you got important stuff at home. So we were down a good bit last year, but this year's picking up a little more. We're excited to see what happens. We still got about 7 weeks till the fest right now.
Yeah.
And, we'll be bigger than last year, but we won't be as big as we were in 2021.
Sure. Well, so 2022 happens. You're looking back on it. Obviously still a success, still amazing array of bands. And how do you feel about that year in general with that?
It was cool. I was happy. To me, it was some of my favorite bands of all time. So the fact that we pulled out a lineup that had the diversity of a Pedro the Lion and an Elliot versus Mastodon and In Flames, and then we have Madball and Earth Crisis and Integrity and some of these old school bands like Sick of It All and Agnostic Front. But we had a lot of cool stuff, the newer stuff like Drug Church and Fiddlehead.
Yeah,
the variety was great. It was just people everywhere you go, be something different. That was something just really cool. Five Iron Friends was playing.
So cool.
You don't see them on the same bill as Mastodon too often.
Dude.
Bleeding Through was great. So I was pretty happy with it. The show went off pretty well. Like there's all just minor, typical festival issues, nothing major.
So the fest ends. How are you guys feeling about it? Are you like, do we need to keep doing this? What was your headspace like?
Well, we knew we were going to keep going. We were a little bit bummed that we didn't get as many tickets buyers the year before, but we already knew we were going to keep going. We'd even signed a ticketing contract through 2024.
Okay.
So we already knew we were going to do, a couple more for sure. So, I think we were just maybe like there's a little hiccup that we didn't get them, the turnout we wanted, but let's start rolling in 2023.
Yeah.
Which we did.
So preparing for this upcoming one, how have things been? Has it been stressful, easy? You still have obviously the band's hitting you up, hey, we want to play, all that. Has it been pretty smooth overall?
Mostly, there's a couple, little hiccups here and there. We changed our minds. So the plan was to tweak things from the years before and do a 2-day long festival with all the stages.
Sure.
And then have Friday be kind of a smaller day with just one stage. The idea was like, if you're wanting to come, if 3 days of a festival is too long for you, the festival's only 2 days this year. If you really miss having 3 days, then those people can still come and see some bands.
Totally.
But the people that aren't coming, we're not going to put a bunch of key reunions on that day. So it's just bands that tour a lot. So these bands are cool to see, but if you miss them, we're not going to put any special, unique, stuff on that day. So you just do it. So that was kind of our plan with that. And as time went on, we were getting more of a backlash from our fans that we didn't have enough kind of pop punk and emo type stuff. And because like the first year that Taking Back Sunday and Mayday Parade Day did really well. And so a lot of people were kind of pushed for more and more of that. So we're like, maybe we should add the Pond stage to the Friday, just have some smaller pop punk bands. And one of the bigger requested bands we'd had for the last 2 or 3 years was MXPX. And we had talked to them every year and they didn't want to play. They just couldn't make it work. And then this year they were finally like able to make it work. And so talking back and forth with them, we kind of changed last minute after we'd already announced we're just going to do the one stage. And then it was kind of like, okay, now we're going to add 2 more stages. MXPX is going to come in. We're bringing some other bigger bands to play with them, like Amberlin and Reliant K. And so that was a little bit of a change. It made the people that had already bought their ticket just for the Shed Bash happy because they get a discounted ticket to 3 stages now. But that was kind of the only difference this year was that we thought we were going to be different, and then we reverted last minute back to the same structure we had before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who are you looking forward to seeing most this year? I know one of the bands, I can tell.
Yeah. X-Toll will be really cool.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say.
I was literally talking to them just recently, like within the last 2 hours, about all their visa paperwork and stuff, and our immigration department's taking forever. But X-Toll will be great. Zayo's always fun. The Bane reunion, even though they played a couple shows already this year, I haven't seen Bane a long time. They always put on such a fun show. The newer band, Better Lovers.
I just saw them 2 nights ago with Under Oath. Yeah.
Nice.
They were great.
I've heard good reviews, so it'd be cool to see them play. Braid is playing. I want to see Braid.
So cool.
Love the 90s emo type stuff. So there's probably a few of the key ones right there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
When you guys, I know obviously you're doing all the booking, and obviously bands are hitting you up, but do you guys all get together and say, hey, this is the goal, or do you guys are just kind of go with the flow? How does that work with you guys?
No, we have a pretty specific goal in mind every time. So we talk about who we want to be headlining what stage and who we want key reunions we're going to go after and who's going to fit with who. So the 4 of us all kind of decide and vote. We have a weekly conference call, and then we have a group text that we do all day, every day, Monday through Friday. So we're chatting about the band stuff like all the time. And then once we come to like conclusion, okay, these are the 5 we want or the 10 we want, then I start hitting them all up.
Yeah.
So then I go do all the contract negotiating and
that's cool.
Going back and forth with the agent.
Man, I'm really excited for it this year. There's so many bands all over the place, like you were saying, and I feel like every year is so eclectic, which is cool. Yeah. And you guys have done an incredible job. And
who are your favorites coming up this year?
I think for me, I've seen MXP. I booked them a couple times. I've seen them a handful of times, but I'd love to see them again. It's been forever. I want to see. Let me see. For sure, Braid. I've seen them a couple times. Hopesfall. I would love to see them again. It's been forever. Or Open Hand. Love Open Hand. Piebald. I'm looking at the list here because I can't even remember who's on it.
Those are all Friday bands.
Becoming the Archetype, love them.
Mm-hmm.
Holy Name, I'm really stoked for. Teenagerist, love them. Training for Utopia, and then Between the Buried and Me for sure. Acidy's Burn, man. This lineup's nuts, dude. Like Goaty Hook, just had Adam on recently. Like, dude. I just think it's cool because a lot of the bands I've had on here are like that are playing it are super stoked, super excited. Like Adam was telling me from Goaty Hook, he was saying he felt like they had an obligation to do this because he's like, I think about the guy who's washing his dishes, can't be in a band, working a job, and he's like, we'd be stupid not to do this. This is, Goaty Hook's their favorite band or whatever, and they're not going to see Goaty Hook for a while. So they felt an obligation, which I think is really cool and they felt honored too, obviously, to be asked. So, man, I think what you guys are doing is incredible, and I'm really stoked for you guys. And yeah, it's amazing.
That's a cool way for him to look at it, because in truth, I mean, not that like you have to feel so special you get the invite to Furnace Fest, but the fact that we're getting hit up by dozens of bands every day. I mean, literally hundreds and hundreds of bands every year submit. And the fact that we would say, sorry, we don't want you, but we do want you, then you should maybe feel, okay, we got to push the front of the line.
Absolutely,
that is kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he was stoked. He was just like, I'm so honored that they would even think of us. So that's cool. You're doing something right, man. Sick, dude. So I know you mentioned you've got a contract till 2024. So does that mean there's a 2024 Furnace Fest for sure, or is it? Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
I know there's always chirping. I know there's always people saying, "Oh, that's exciting, dude." I'm pumped. I'm really looking forward to it, and be cool to bro down and hang out and all that jazz. And
I mean, we've discussed several dozen bands already. So
dude,
there's several we've already talked to. So
I love that. Love hearing that, man. Sweet. Well, other than the Furnace Fest and your job, anything else you got on the horizon?
I got randomly asked to be a part of this hot sauce festival, so I'm actually helping put that together here in Nashville. So
that's rad, dude.
It's a couple guys have already done a bunch of them and met them through the music scene. And I was actually connected through Carl Severson, if you remember him. He was a singer for Nora and Ferret Music. Yeah. And so he and I and another guy named Steve Seabury, who works with Monarch Music, we're all putting together this hot sauce festival coming up in November.
That's so cool.
So that's downtown Nashville.
That'll be hot. That's sick.
It'll be hot. That's the other thing that I got going on, work-wise, I guess.
Yeah, man. That's exciting. Ryan,
hopefully take another dive trip when that's done.
Bro, and you need to come down to Florida and hang, because it's been a while since we've seen each other. I mean, I know we'll see each other there, but it'd be cool to hang out again and not when you're running around. Yeah, we're not running around like a chicken. Bro, thank you so much for coming on my podcast. You rule. Wow. I really appreciate your friendship and all you've done for me, and I really mean that. You're awesome, and I'm really stoked for what you've got going on, and I appreciate all you do. So
thank you.
All right, Ryan. I will see you at Furnace Fest, buddy.
All right, bud. Peace out.
All right, see you.
Thank you so much, the listener, for just tuning in weekly, and I really appreciate the support. If you'd like to add me on Instagram and Facebook at The Rivers of Truth Cast, if you'd like to like and subscribe, you know the drill. Thank you to Ryan Luther. Awesome conversation, really stoked, and can't wait to hang out at Furnace Fest this year. Really stoked for all you do for this community, and such an awesome dude. So thank you again, Ryan. And got some incredible artists on the horizon, and man, I'm really stoked. Nostalgia, guys, it's still a hell of a drug.